A unique challenge of corporate governance is the agency problem. When a principal hires an agent to perform part of his duties, conflict of interest may arise. This is called the agency problem. For sole proprietorship and partnership, this agency problem is not a serious issue because their managers are also their owners. Corporations suffer from this problem because the owners of the corporation and the managers of the corporation are separated from each other. Managers care more about their job security rather than maximizing shareholder wealth. Agency costs are the expenses incurred by the agency problem. It can be divided into direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs include expenditures that benefit managers but put additional costs to shareholders. For example, some corporate managers buy luxury corporate jets and other expenditures that are not so related to their business, and this is considered as this type of costs. Monitoring costs means the costs associated with monitoring the activities of managers. The indirect agency costs are those that refer to the expenses incurred due to the lost opportunities. For example, there is a high-risk project that will create value for shareholders, but managers may reject the project because they are afraid that they will lose their jobs if the project fails. Since this expense is very difficult to value numerically, it is considered as part of the indirect agency costs. Corporations are also working toward mitigating the agency problem. There are two ways to address this problem. One is through managerial compensation, and another one is to replace existing management. There is an active market of merger and acquisition. If the company's management is underperforming, the company will become a target for other companies. Those companies will take over it and replace its management to achieve a turnover. Managerial compensation is a widely used way to align the interests of managers and shareholders. According to statistics, more than 60% of CEO compensation comes from stock options. Here, I want to use a simple example to show you how the stock option works. Suppose the CEO of a company is awarded with 50,000 stock options. The option gives him the right, but not the obligation to buy shares at $50 per share. The stock is trading at $50 per share at the stock market. But he cannot exercise the option right now. He signed a contract of 5 years with the company. So he has to wait for 5 years until he can exercise the option. If the company's stock rises above $50 per share 5 years later, let's say $70 per share at that time, the CEO will earn $20 per share or $1 million in total from the stock options. If the share price drops below $50, then he earns nothing. From this example, you can tell the CEO's personal benefit is tied up with the shareholders' interest, so that executives will work in the best interest of shareholders. One extreme example of the agency problem is Enron. Enron was one of the largest companies in the United States. When the company was losing money from investment and accumulating debt, their management used accounting methods such as off-balance sheet special purpose vehicles to hide the debt and financial losses from its investors and creditors. The accounting scandal started to unfold in 2001 when SEC started investigating Enron. Its share price dropped from over $90 to almost zero. The company ended up filing for bankruptcy on December 2nd, 2001. Several senior managers of Enron, such as its chairman, CEO, and CFO, were charged with insider trading and securities fraud. As Enron's directors, they had a legal obligation to protect the interests of shareholders, but they failed to carry out their responsibilities. Enron's collapse led to new regulations and legislation to promote the accuracy of financial reporting. One example is the Sarbanes Act. Sarbanes created the Public Companies Accounting Oversight Board to establish new audit guidelines and ethical standards. The new ethical standards are significantly higher than ever before. It also promotes the independence of auditors. It prohibits auditing companies from providing non-audit services, such as consulting service, for the same client. This regulation is based on Enron's lesson. Enron's auditor firm, Arthur Andersen, was one of the 5 largest accounting firms in the United States at that time. But it didn't perform its duty because it charged hefty fees for its consulting service, and it didn't want to lose a customer. It requires public companies' auditing committee of corporate boards to include only independent outside directors to oversee the annual audits. It also defines the interaction of the external auditors and the corporate audit committees. It mandates that officers take personal responsibility for the accuracy and completeness of corporate financial reports. If there are any false statements or anything missing from the annual reports, they are responsible for it. So, when we reflect this scandal, we realize that whenever after a scandal, there are new regulations and new legislation. So it helps us to reflect what is missing in the regulation, and it also helps us to fill out the loopholes.